Welcome into Pac-12 Preview. Yes, I am Michael Carcinello at Diablo00 on Twitter is where you can find me. And yes, we are going to get rolling right away. Had to shuffle around some guests and schedule, but always there to bail me out. The awesome coach, the coach that has, was at ASU for a long time, a Stanford alum, even was up at the Harvard of the Pines at NAU as well. Over 500 wins, and I apologize as I bring her in right now. Head coach Charlie Turner-Thorne, Pac-12 analyst, and also professor now. I mean, coaches can never sit still. And yes, we're doing our version, as she said before we jumped on it. As you're so gracious to jump on with me, coach, of not carpool karaoke, but sports car karaoke, I guess, for us.
Karaoke. I like it. Hello, Michael.
I'm so glad you could join me again. And for everybody watching, yes, we were kidding around because Coach had some really good Final Four predictions on the men's side, as we thought, as did I think. But when, half of your Sweet 16 is gone after the first round and, 5 of your Elite 8 have gone away. The men's tournament, we could care less about. The women's tournament, though. No, I'm just kidding. Let's start with that. I mean, when we last talked, Iowa was about to play Colorado, and, you had said a very solid game plan for Caitlin Clark. And, but you had also said Iowa has a number one offense for a reason, too. It's not just her, but to try and take her away. Man, Colorado hung for a little bit, Coach. They just down the stretch, Iowa was too much. And Caitlin Clark, I mean, it's insane what she did. Then you look at the South Carolina game for Iowa. And, we were actually talking that day, and I'm like, man, I got to give the edge to South Carolina. It's just they can both score. We know that. But in that South Carolina game from Iowa, before we get to, obviously, we talked about Kim Mulkey and what she did, but the number one offense, and she lets the game come to her, but somebody that can literally put up 30 a night, Coach. I mean, if you're coaching her, I'm sure that's great, but going against it, Colorado did nothing wrong, but they couldn't get the win. South Carolina, I mean, that game was just a total heavyweight fight, and they upset them. What can you say about this girl? Because I've seriously run out of adjectives because how much she plays, like you coaches always say, within the team system.
Yeah, I know, back-to-back 40-point games. I think definitely deserving of Player of the Year. There was a great article, and her dad that talked about when Caitlin called her dad and told her that she won Player of the Year, and he said it's about time.
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
Yeah, and there's a lot of fun Caitlin Clark stories out there, like when she was in first grade and she was so ultra competitive that the teacher called her mom concerned about it. So, just great for the game. Fun to see a young lady like that because, she did have to get stronger physically and do some things. And I love watching players continue to get better. And so Caitlin Clark came in as a, top player out of high school, but there's a lot of those and they don't all evolve and develop the way Caitlin does. So, just a relentless work ethic is what young players listening need to know. I mean, that didn't just happen. And yeah, I thought the Iowa South Carolina game was probably the game of the tournament. And just really fun to watch and kind of offense against defense, really, because South Carolina, they can get, I mean, Cook is great. She's a phenomenal player and their post game is insane, but at the same time, and mainly because they get it off the glass. But I knew Iowa could beat them. I'm not going to say I predicted it. I said, Iowa can definitely get South Carolina. And, South Carolina's so sucked up on defense. The key was wide open. I mean, they were getting wide open layups on the pick and roll, high on ball. No real adjustments through the whole game. Was pretty interesting. Just, fun to see some new teams in the final national championship game. And you mentioned the Colorado game. I mean, Colorado more than hung around. I mean, they were right there and had a chance as we knew. And I think I'm disappointed in people saying, "Oh, the Pac-12 didn't do well." I mean, you had obviously, Stanford was the big surprise. It happens, but 3 teams in the Sweet 16 is nothing to sneeze at. The seeding wasn't great. We all know that. And then of course Washington State, tough first round draw, but it was still, I think, a lot, a great year for women's basketball in the Pac-12.
Well, and I was talking with some Utah fans on Twitter because I think I told you this before. For some reason, ever since Utah came in the Pac-12, I've been to 2 games there, and they really do have vitriol for ASU, and I don't know where that came from. But it's pretty fun. Like, I mean, it's trash talking, and they're not bad, but for all of a sudden, I'm like, why all this trash talk? But I was saying, to me, that LSU game, the LSU Utah game, and I said, look, of course having watched Utah all year, and I've seen LSU, and I go, as it goes on, and I said, Kim Mulkey knows what she's doing. She's been there, and she said she'd get LSU back to, or into prominence like she did at Baylor, and she delivered. But I said, to me, that game literally is who's going to go to the championship on that side. I said, and
good for you, Michael, because I agree. I mean, if Jenna Johnson doesn't miss 2 free throws, honestly, LSU's at home watching.
Yeah.
So, there's a little luck involved. But to your point, with Kim Mulkey, and we have to mention her outfits. I think they kept a lot of additional conversations going through the NCAA tournament. Because
I forgot to ask you that last time, Coach, because I was going to say, Coach, I mean, you always had very solid style, but you got to go. You got to Kim Mulkey it up.
Do not compare me to Kim Mulkey, Michael.
No, I'm not. I'm saying you should have Kim Mulkey'd it up at times. I
mean, I can't do. I don't have that moxie. I cannot carry that off at all. And
90% of people
I try to just wear nice outfits. Not really like. The one blazer, that was kind of a costume. The other ones were just, they're just loud, and she can carry it off. And the biggest thing is she just has so much experience. Her teams just show up, believing, playing really tough, and the silliest comment in the entire tournament was by a analyst that will name. I'm not going to name her.
Remain nameless. Yes.
Thank you. And she said, yeah, it's a blessing and a curse how many games, Kim Mulkey has coached in the NCAA tournament. And I just scratched my head. I'm like, curse? I'm like, this is why you eke the game out against Lynn Roberts, and Virginia Tech and stuff, because you're going against coaches that are there for the first time, and there is a level of experience that helps you, when you've been there and done it, and helps you prepare your teams in the NCAA tournament. So, nobody would have predicted that final game, Michael. Nobody would have predicted, not even Kim Mulkey would have predicted that Carson hits 5 threes in the first half, that they shoot out of their minds, and score over 100 points. I mean, I can remember games when, it was barely in the 50s.
Right.
For the whole game. So it's great for women's basketball. Really fun. The big after, post-game conversation is, of course, the officiating. Well,
I wasn't even going to bore you with it, because you and I've said my piece, and from a fan, and when I'm covering it, yes, I have to be objective. When I was at your games, when I'm at the men's games, and I always say to myself, when I was at one of your games, one of the women's games, or one of the men's games at ASU, and it took a few years to do it in covering it, but would I say this at a neutral game? Would I have the same? And yeah, calls are going to be missed. It's just in the championship game. I mean, even a few LSU players, I saw a few Iowa players. I mean, on the rebound, one of the LSU players went into the girl's back, and yeah, they were both up, but I'm like, she goes that way. And I'm like, sometimes I just say in big games before it's played, I want the players, and not to cheap shot, play against the officials and foul them like they're getting fouled, and the official tries to call, be like, nope, you don't call it, so why call it now? But yeah, I don't want to bore you with that. Let me ask you this though. Angel Reese, like her, I mean, you touched on her last after the Utah game, and when I had you on, and all year long, the girl is a double machine. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. And I know every generation says a generation behind him. When you hit a big shot, yes, it's hard if you hit like you said, the bank shot at the end of the first half. When that went in, I was like, man, she's been shooting great, but it's just your night. Like the form was good, everything was there, it was online. But when it goes in off the glass from 3, it's your night, and hats off. But I mean, I know she's doing the thing to Caitlin Clark that Caitlin Clark did to Louisville. And look, if she was talking trash to Angel Reese during the game, we didn't hear it, but I just like they won. Angel Reese is phenomenal. I mean, people all year long, and I know you want to have a chip on your shoulder as a player, but was it a little? And I hate saying too much, but just, I mean, singling like Caitlin Clark out was a little too much for you to see in that celebration from such an amazing player in Angel Reese.
I think that's a good way. That's well said. Like just focus on your team and what you did. And I mean, that's what our teams always did. ASU. We would never, try to talk about our opponents and stuff, but it's like everybody's just super excited in the celebration and stuff. I'll tell you what, Angel Reese aside, Carson doesn't hit those 5 threes. Iowa probably wins that game.
Right.
I mean, that, and then they had the other.
So won by 17, and you figure it's a 2-point game late. I mean, well, and it is a big if, because somebody said that to me on Twitter last night. Because
let me finish, Michael. They had two other kids that aren't good shooters, because Carson is a very good shooter. That threw in threes, and had that not, I mean, Angel Reese started the game phenomenal. And it was crazy. It was like, okay, whose bench kids are going to step up, because all the starters were on the bench, through the first half. And right. I'm not, I agree with you. I don't know that we need to get into the officiating. It was just, a really hard game, and right. Probably it was just disappointing to see so many of the top players in foul trouble, not able to play their normal rotations. Not saying that they were good calls, bad calls. It was just right. Unfortunate, because I think it took away from, in particular, Iowa, their big three, their 3 top players, right. Saddled with 4 fouls going into the fourth quarter. So that's the only teeny bit of a blemish. And I don't know that you say, oh, the officials, it was just the way the game played out.
Right.
Not ideal.
No, and I'm with you. That's the way you said it too. I'm 100% with you, because if it's a foul, it's a foul. But then there were other ones when you see, and I'm like, come on, man. Like some of the ones they called, it's like, man, if I called that on the playground, I would have got thrown out of they would have been like, okay, you're done. Like after they've been like, if I kept calling those, you're done. But look, I know Caitlin Clark did it against Louisville, and Louisville, from all accounts, and I'm trying to talk to some people. I mean, they were a very good team, but and not disrespectful, but they were a little chippy on the court. If Louisville was beating you, they were talking, coach. So, I mean, Caitlin Clark did that against Louisville. Angel Reese wanted to give it back. That's fine. But, like, to keep pointing at the ring at Caitlin Clark, it's like, and again, you want to celebrate, you just won it. But the thing that cracked me up, coach, before we get real quick to our terrible men's bracket, is at the end of the night when Angel Reese, and I get it, he said, well, and in the beginning of the year, I agree with her statement when she's like, yeah, nobody thought we could get here. And she's like, yeah, when nobody in the beginning of the year, when the tournament started. And I laugh, because I know I've said this to you before. If you're a 1 through 4 seed in any region, people think you can get to the finals, to the championship game. They were a 3 seed. So Angel Reese, whatever you had to put on your shoulder, your coach is fiery. And again, I always love to, like you said, to shout out Kim Mulkey, because the fact that, like, when you did the res night up there and you got Baylor to come up there and play, I mean, that was, obviously a great event. I know Coach Mulkey had no problem being a part of it, but I mean, just to come up and the energy on the res, and I mean, I'm still bummed I couldn't make it up there, Coach, but I watched. But yeah, I mean, no, but for Angel Reese, nobody, even when the tournament started, I'm like, you were a 3 seed in your region. People thought you could win it, but I'm like, hey, you are national champs. Enjoy it.
Right. Yeah, and she's gonna be an amazing pro. She's just absolutely so talented. And I don't know if there was anything super egregious that happened in any of those games. I missed it. A little bit of trash talk, a little bit of bravado or whatever. I mean, it's just who they are. Some people appreciate it, some people don't. I don't think anything crossed the line of you're disrespecting the game.
Right. Oh, no
that way. And if I didn't watch every second of every game, but I didn't personally see any of that. So I thought it was a great tournament.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's just a different world. I mean, if I can finish up maybe with this comment, we talk maybe briefly about the men's game. I gotta run to class, but
I know.
I will say, it's just a new era with buying your players. So. Like when you're at an SC school, when you have like really deep pockets, I mean, you're going to end up with a lot of talent. And, I think, Michaela Williams is probably the number 1 2023 draft prospect who's going to LSU, and Kim did a great job recruiting her. But part of that too is how much money she can give her, and it's just a whole new world with that. And all that to say that it does allow, great coaches like Kim Mulkey to win a championship a year or two later, because it's not, you're not having to, get freshmen, and groom them, and develop them. You're basically just going around and drafting like a pro. Okay, let me trade for Kevin Durant, right? Let me trade for Angel Reese. Let me go recruit this player to our program, from somebody else's program. It's just a whole different world.
Right. And the transfer portal definitely, and I will say this, and like, we'll get to the men's. I mean, Caitlin Clark, I know, is a junior, but I know there's nothing against the rules. I mean, I don't see why she wouldn't come out for the WNBA draft, but with the NIL, you're totally right there. All right, the men's side. So San Diego State and UConn, Coach, we are so smart. This is the matchup we both picked in the championship game. No,
I know. How about that, Michael?
I know.
Was in my bracket too. I'm just so pleased. Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy how well UConn is playing. I mean, they haven't even double-digit wins through the entire tournament, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. And they're just good. I mean, I love the action they run on offense. They're good defensively. Right. I mean, they'll take some very, very quick shots sometimes. And I mean, if there's anything I see, they usually have big leads, so they can afford it. But, besides occasional ill-advised shot selection, I mean, they just have it all. So. Right. I mean, obviously, a great defensive team like San Diego State is hopefully going to give them a chance to hang around, right. and maybe have a chance to win. I didn't see the offense, especially their free throw shooting. Oh my gosh,
yeah,
down the stretch of that last game. But fun. Obviously the fun thing is San Diego State in the conversation to be in the Pac-12, and if so, wow, what a statement they're coming in making. Having a national championship, whether they win it or they don't, in a national championship game with their men's basketball program. That's pretty exciting.
I'll interrupt you real quick, because ever since I visited that campus multiple times in high school, and I mean, I loved ASU, as you know, but yes, that campus should be a part of the Pac-12. That's all I'm gonna say. But Brian Dutcher, I mean, a guy that was, an assistant, real quick, Coach. I mean, for Brian Dutcher, to be Steve Fisher's assistant, he was at Michigan. Then he followed him to San Diego State. I mean, just from the coaching standpoint, again, for Dan Hurley too. I mean, both coaches kind of like, in the shadows, because we all know assistant coaches recruit. But I mean, for him to get his shot and be so, like you said, genuinely player focused, and this coaching matchup with him and Dan Hurley, how awesome is that, though?
I mean, from a coach's standpoint, I love it. I love to see these veteran coaches. It's really been a Final Four, and certainly national championship games with really veteran coaches who have, done it seemingly, like you said, caring about their players and especially on the men's side. I agree. It was really fun seeing Steve Fisher in the stands, and then I didn't even realize his son was on staff.
Yeah.
So that's just really cool. And then, of course, the whole Hurley family affair is really fun. So I don't know if I've ever really rooted for UConn, but, I kind of have my West Coast ties versus the Hurley family. I don't know. I might be a little bit partial to the Hurley family because.
Right. No,
good people.
Look, it's his dad. I mean, Bobby said the other day, I'll leave you on this, Coach. It was pretty funny when he did his postseason presser in Tempe. He goes, my dad's brain is such a machine. He goes, I literally enjoy it, but I have to move a few seats away from him to enjoy my brother's game. I knew you'd appreciate that.
That's hilarious. Yeah. I mean, and how about Bobby Hurley Sr.? I mean, he could have probably coached in 4 Final Fours, and, just that he wanted to stay at the high school level and help those, many at-risk students, in that level and not make much money. I mean, once I saw his documentary, I just became a lifelong avid fan of Bobby Hurley Sr.
Yep.
So
you and I are on the same page, because him being from Jersey and me being from Jersey, I remember as a kid, like my cousins going to basketball camps, and even like one year I was back there in the summer and I went with them, and it's just like, It was so cool. But yeah, all he did for high school kids. So yeah, hey, Coach, thanks so much for jumping on.
Yeah, you're welcome, Michael. You take care. I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
That is Coach Charlie Turner Thorne talking. Kim Mulkey, look, when you enter the conversation, and I had a Sports Center on last night as I was doing quite a few things, and when Kim Mulkey, when you enter the breath of Gino and Pat, and yes, college basketball junkies and even casual college basketball fans should know that Pat Summitt, rest in peace, Gino Auriemma, and you win 4 championships, and she's also as a player as well. I mean, Kim Mulkey has done it all, the swag. And like Coach said, the NIL, and that's not the only reason. You got to be able to coach. I mean, yes, to get talent, the transfer portal, you hear coaches talking about it all the time. But yeah, Kim Mulkey, hats off to LSU is what I will say. I mean, 102, by the way. 102-85, the final. Coach and I talking about that. I mean, Angel Reese, 15 points, 10 boards, like we said. I mean, Carson, a bench player, 22 points to lead by 1 point because she had 22 points to Jasmine Carson, and it was just awesome. She had 22 points. Alexis Morris, again, the 5'6" senior out of Beaumont, Texas. Beaumont, what movie? What 80s classic, which was remade? You can hit me up on Twitter on this. Which 80s classic, phenomenal soundtrack, was made in Beaumont? And I'll give you a very easy clue. 6 degrees of separation of this person. The game started eons ago, but Beaumont, Texas. Hit me up on Twitter at Diablo00. Hit me in the comments here. But yeah, let me know that. But yeah, Beaumont, Texas. But yeah, no, she Alexis Morris. I mean, yeah, just she had so Carson had 22 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. She was 5 for 6 from the 3-point line, 7 for 8 from the field, but 5 for 6 from the 3-point line. A team they were 11 for 17. They shot 64.7%. So when I last they're under 5 or under 50 or under 65%. And you would look at what Iowa did from the 3-point line. You're like 14 of 30. Okay, 46.7%, which is insane, right? I mean, Caitlin Clark alone, 8 for 19, 9 for 22 from the field, but 8 for 19 from 3, 30 points. And I mean, it's just you look at it, you're like, wow, but 65%, man. And again, Kim Mulkey, a firecracker, like Coach said. She her style, again, she can pull it off, and you want to go that way. And yeah, 90, like I said to Coach, 90% of people can't pull that kind of style off. But yeah, I mean, so Alexis Morris, 21 points, 9 assists, 2 boards, and a steal. Angel Reese, like I said, 15 and 10. And then LaDeja Williams, the 6'4" senior, she had 20 points, 5 rebounds, 3 steals. I mean, they filled the stat sheet up, and they were going to have to. But again, you look at a team that was 11 for 17 from 3. 11. And you always say, people say if, and they normally might not do that, but they knew they were going to have to score. They have to play defense, limit Iowa to 1 and done. And again, Friday, I missed you guys. I had to get coaching right away. Had a memorial service to go to, so inevitably wasn't here on Friday. But it just in this game, it just that you look at it, and then from the free throw line, I mean, LSU was 15 to 21, so 71%. Iowa was 15 to 20, so 75%. I mean, just but yeah, I mean, the foul trouble that Coach talked about. I mean, LaDasia Williams had 4 for LSU. You know, Reese had 3, Morris had 3, but you look at Monica Sizzy. Monica Zanano, pardon me, the 6'3" senior who was just, again, had a hell of a tournament. But she had 5. And then McKenna Warnock, the 6'1" senior, she had 5. And again, like I said to coach, if it's a foul, it's a foul, understandably. But there was some, and both sides. I know I said that the 2 plays from Iowa. There was sometimes I'm looking at LSU and I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, 41 fouls were called, and overall, or no, there was, 37. Sorry. 41 foul shots, but there was 37 foul calls. So yeah, like I said, Cizanano had 5, Warnock had 5, Caitlin Clark had 4. But yeah, they had to sit in the first half. I mean, you look at total minutes, Cizanano 22. A lot less as he played. Warnock 25. Clark had 35. Marshall played all 40 minutes. Gabby Marshall, again, she had a heck of a game. But yeah, she played all 40 minutes. Did the guard, Miss Marshall. I mean, she finished with 12 points. She only had 1 foul, but 1 rebound, 1 assist, 1 steal. She was 4 for 4 from the line, 3 for 5 from the field. Again, a very efficient night, but just and then Kate Martin, the other senior guard, she played 38 minutes. Did Martin, and she had 13 points, 6 assists, 2 boards, a steal, and a block. But I mean, minutes wise, you look on, leading the way off the bench was Addison O'Grady, the 6'4" sophomore from Aurora, Colorado, which for those of you who have never been out to Denver, that's where the airport is. It's in Aurora. Anyway, side note, traveling facts. Next time I have Chris Cartman on, we'll talk about traveling to Denver. But yeah, no, Addison O'Grady, she led on the bench 18 minutes. She had 4 points. She was 1 for 1 from the field, 2 for 4 from the free throw line. She did have 5 rebounds, though, 3 blocks as well. And then, and I'm not saying, and Hannah Stuhlke, the 6'2" freshman from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, home state kid. Stuhlke, she played 11 minutes, and she had 2 points, 1 rebound. But yeah, I mean, limiting, Cizanano to 22 minutes and Warnock to 25. I mean, you look at, Caitlin Clark, she did have 4 fouls. She did sit for a little bit, but, she played all but 5 minutes of the game. So, again, 35, and, Kim Mulkey getting that production off the bench. I mean, yeah, Carson, like I said, going absolutely crazy. I mean, hats off to Jasmine Carson. Look, that bank, like I said with Coach, you play long enough and you have skill, you will at some point bank in a 3-point shot, or, you've seen even on the men's side, but in the NBA, WNBA, somebody just launching say a half court shot or a 3/4 court shot, and it literally great rotation, hits the glass and goes in. Like, I mean, but when she did that, I mean, and look, Iowa made a run. It was 27-22 after 1. LSU's up by 5, but then that 32-point second quarter, outscoring Iowa by 12, 32-20. So 59-42, a 17 lead at half. And then Iowa outscored them by 6 in the third quarter, 22-16. So it's 11 points going in the fourth. You're feeling pretty good. But then LSU outscores them by 6 again. I mean, Iowa did go on, they made some runs. But look, Kim Mulkey, LSU, I mean, Angel Reese, like you said, she's very fired up and has a very big chip on her shoulder. And look, I'm with Coach was right. There was nothing that disrespected anything to disrespect the game. And I don't think that she did. So like, it was like, wow. It was just, and of course the cameras are going to be on it. So yes, that is the one thing that, instead of back in the day where there was maybe 1 or 2 cameras, it was, you're not getting everything. There's, multiple cameras and, 10, 15, 20, 25 different cameras and, doing the John Cena and, you can't see me and pointing to a ring finger as, Caitlin Clark's walking by. Like, again, I don't, celebrating with your team. I just think that Angel Reese is so good and so talented. Like, and if there was trash talk, then 150%, it's as the game's going on and, maybe something said down, somebody shooting some free throws. And I don't see why you're going to want to fire up or poke at a bear on both sides. So, I mean, Caitlin Clark, you look at her tournament, like Coach said, over 30 in every game, but back-to-back 40-point games, one of them a 40-point triple-double. I mean, just insane. So, yeah, I mean, hats off to Iowa, but look, Kim Mulkey, LSU, again, they were a 3 seed. So I get firing yourself up, but and you want to go off the beginning of the season? Absolutely, Angel Reese, and into the early part of the season, considering what, LSU only lost 2 games all year? I mean, when you look at it that way for the Tigers, I mean, you look and this is amazing. They won their first 29 games. They were 29-0 before they lost to South Carolina. And they lost, and South Carolina got them good. I mean, they were number 1 at that point. It was late in the season, but South Carolina whooped them 88-64. And then they rattled off 5 in a row, and then they lost their last game of the season to Tennessee, 69-67. So for the fact that Angel Reese saying nobody in the beginning of the season, maybe, but then when you lost, I mean, you won, like I said, your opening 20, and they had beaten Tennessee before. So they played Tennessee twice, and they beat Tennessee the first time, 76-68. They lost by 2 the second time. So, yeah, when you win your first 29, you can win it. So, hey, going to step aside real quick. Going to flip it over again, talk a little bit more about the San Diego State UConn matchup. And again, the defense they can both play. What a matchup this should be. Talk a little about rankings. Going to step aside real quick and have much more coming up here on Pac-12 Preview. right, back here on Pac-12 Preview. I am Michael Caratino at Diablo00. Want to shout out Charlie Turner Thorne for jumping on last minute again as she watched that game and again broke it down all year. For the Pac-12 network, again, over 500 wins for Coach Thorne. And again, hats off to LSU. Iowa had a hell of a season, but Kim Mulkey and LSU only lose 2 games all year. And it's funny because they didn't lose the least amount of games this year. South Carolina only lost 1, and it was in the semifinals to Iowa. But yeah, I'm looking forward to, again, the WNBA draft. I'm also looking forward to next year. As the WNBA draft, it'll be coming up here quickly, but we'll definitely get something scheduled on the books with Coach Thorne. And again, I'm just throwing it out there. I know Clark's a junior, but I if I'm her, I'd declare. But that's just me. But selfishly, from a college standpoint, I love to see her back next year because the uber competitiveness in her, and you get to that level and they all have, again, competitive, but there are those, Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, those players that just take it to that next level of competitiveness. So either way, I look forward to it. But all right, so the men's game is upon us. And yes, everybody, I know that your brackets are absolutely perfect. When we look at the bracket, the Final Four, again, I talked about it in the Elite Eight, even with Coach Thorne. There was, you had a 5 and a 6 in San Diego State and Creighton. You had a 3 and a 9 in FAU and K-State, a 2 and a 5 in Texas and Miami, and then a 3 and a 4 in Gonzaga and UConn. So, you get 2 5s, a 4, 2 5s, and a 9. I know I sound like I'm talking about buying some shoes, right? Madness. But look, San Diego State beats FAU, the last second shot. Coach Dutcher to not call that timeout and just everything. And, maybe you wanted a few more offensive weapons, as he said, on the court. But they beat FAU 72-71. And then UConn, again, Miami hung for a little bit, but UConn goes, beats them 72 to 59. And, for Dan Hurley, Coach Thorne touched on it. It's one of those things where, again, he thought he would, maybe not go to the college route and more so do what, his dad did, what Bobby Hurley Sr. did. And it's, but he's there. He's with UConn, and 30-8 overall are the Huskies. 32-6 for the Aztecs of San Diego State. But and this is our matchup, and it is one hell of a matchup. I get so sick and tired. And before, look at this, I will keep this briefish. But people say, you always see the narrative. And literally since I remember, just 2 minutes ago when I was a kid, and you start to pay attention, you hear the narratives. You need the blue bloods and everybody want by how the teams played in the season. And yes, like Coach Turner Thorne and I said, at times, some team seedings, you'll look at it and say, they're a little lower than they should be. Or, a team might be a teeny bit higher than they should be. And they got credit for, yes, winning games. You're not going to get to the tournament. You don't win games, understandably. But seeding is everything. But I get so sick and tired of hearing that, we need the blue bloods and, people will only watch. If you can't enjoy the great college basketball that we've seen, again, aside of the fouls, but the upsets, Florida Atlantic and won 35 games before the other night. I mean, Florida Atlantic 35-4. That's what they finished the season. Like, it's maddening to me. Maddening that we always hear, oh, but you need the blue bloods and you need the blue bloods and we like Cinderella early, but no. If you're a number one seed, you don't get there. Look, I didn't think Purdue should have been a number one seed, and it has nothing to do with disdain against the Big Ten. It's overall body of work. It's not a lifetime achievement award. Like, I didn't think that ASU should have been that 11 seed that had to be in the first four. And yet they were, yet they crushed Nevada, and they're a last-second shot away from beating TCU and going on to play Gonzaga. And look, and I'm not saying ASU's UConn, you understand, but I said defensively, they were one of the 4 teams in the Pac-12 that go toe-to-toe with anybody in the country. Doesn't mean they'll beat everybody, but defensively, they can force enough one-and-dones. They can pressure the ball. As a unit, they did it all year. So certain seedings and other teams, look, you don't need to reseed. And I know people maybe they should reseed after the first round, if there's what's that in the South where Arizona was number 2, Alabama was number 1, right? Alabama wins their game. Princeton beats Arizona. So the 15 seed is the lowest seed to obviously advance. And Alabama fans are saying, they were saying like reseed in the Sweet 16. But Alabama would have been playing Princeton in the Sweet 16 because Princeton got to the Sweet 16. So, look, no, I'm not for reseeding. If you're a number 1 and you yapped and this and that and blah, 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 and you're lobbying for it, and granted, I know the committee's not just sitting there saying, they lobbied for this. You're going off of what that is. Yes, it's hard for a lot of the blue blood programs for committees to say, okay, if they're on a 5, you think, maybe they're a 6 or they're a 7, but it's blue blood. So they go up to the 6 line or they're in one of the 5 lines. It's human nature. That part I get. You're always going to get to it, but I get so sick of hearing we need the blue bloods or 1 or 2 and maybe a 3 if there's a 4. But are you kidding me? Like, it's just, I want to see great college basketball, and the transfer portal, basically the one and done changed it. The transfer portal changed it, and people say, these mid majors keep going, they keep going deeper in the tournament. Well, yeah, the one and dones might have the talent, but when you get 22, 23-year-old young adults, you get into a game, you get physical with somebody. Again, I'm not saying 18-year-old's weak, but look, they've had the fall to, again, get into, and granted, I take that back. They've had the summer program, the fall, but you still get 22, 23-year-old basketball players throwing 18-year-olds around. Not by a lot, but you're not going to out physical a lot of them. So that's why a lot of these mid majors, once it was, the one and dones, you see like, Kentucky, John Calipari. I'm not ripping on him. He's got 1 championship with all the talent he's recruited, the one and dones he's had come through. So look, I get it, but you don't need, if you only watch a tournament for chalk and filling out brackets when it comes to money thing, I'm 100% with you. Yes. We all want it to be there. And I know the 5-12, there's always, throughout history since 79, when they started seeding like the 5-12, the upsets, I remember even through the, the 90s, talking about it and just forward, there's always some 12 seemingly that beats a 5 about the matchups. But I always fill out a few ridiculous brackets every year, extras, that I literally have all 4 16 seeds in the Final Four and all 4 15 seeds and 14. And I'll fill out, because I'm a college nerd. I'm a nerd like that. I'll do those first because I'll have every single one of the numbers, like I said, from 1 to 16, all in the Final Four against each other. And then I'll fill out my real brackets just because, I like to do that. Like if a 16 or a 15 seed goes far, like when UMBC beat, was that Virginia? Like I had that, but it's not about me having it. But you don't need. I want the best teams. I want teams that are playing defense. I want the transfer portal with NIL, the transfer portal, mix it with one and done, mix it with guys, obviously coming off of COVID. Some got the extra year of eligibility and stayed in school. And people are like, oh, well, they're not NBA ready. Well, maybe they're just finishing their education, getting NBA ready, and throwing some of these one and done rounds, which, again, the one and dones, you see them go to the NBA. Yes, they might look pretty good, but in the beginning, they get thrown around like rag dolls. And it's an eye-opening experience. That being said, this matchup between UConn and San Diego State, which is at 9:20 Eastern time tonight, 6:20 on the left coast, as my guy Eric Wilson, and we will be doing the Sports Arena tonight. Probably around the time. The game will almost be at halftime as we get rolling tonight. Sports Arena, the No Filter Network. You'll see us. We'll be there. That being said, but yeah, San Diego State, UConn, look, it's – and just real quick, so San Diego State's path there, again, they were in the South. They were the 5 seed. They didn't get upset. But Charleston, it was a 6-point game. They beat Charleston 63-57, and they turned around and beat 13 seed Furman, who beat Virginia, upset a 4 seed. San Jose State beat Furman, 75-52. And then in the Elite 8, they got the 1-point victory. Yes, we all know the foul. Hey, Creighton had chances to make hoops. San Diego State had other chances to make hoops too, to pull away. But 57-56, the Aztecs win it. And then in the Final Four, they beat Florida Atlantic 72-71, a last-second shot. Not free throws, a shot. And they beat Florida Atlantic 72-71. UConn's road to the championship game tonight. Well, they opened up against Iona. Again, Rick Pitino having a team there. 87-63 was the score UConn rolled. So a 24-point victory there. Then St. Mary's, who had a heck of a season, they beat VCU in the first round at St. Mary's. But well, it was kind of close. UConn beat them 70-55, so a 15-point win. And then they turned around and beat Gonzaga by 28, 82-54 in the Elite 8. And then in the Final Four, we saw it, a 13-point win, which was their lowest margin of victory, 72-59 over the Hurricanes. So, I mean, and when we look at, I mean, even so, UConn, again, just so consistent. And and then Adam Sanogo, the 6'9" junior, who's actually from Mali, but he had a heck of a game against Miami. He led his team in scoring and actually led all scorers with 21 points, 9 of 11 field goals, 2 for 3 though from behind the arc included in there. I guess his only blemish, he was 1 for 4 from the charity stripe, but yeah, 21 points, 10 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 blocks, and I mean, but the size again that they have. I mean, Sanogo at 6'9", the freshman Alex Caravan 6'8", and in the starting lineup, I mean, he had 8 points, but he did have 9 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and a block. The guards play very well. Jordan Hawkins, a 6'5" sophomore for UConn, who's had a solid season. I mean, he had 13 points, 3 rebounds, even had a block. And then leading UConn off the bench, I mean, he played Naheem Aline. He played I think he played 18 minutes. 21 minutes. Pardon me. 21 minutes. And, he had 8 points. I mean, 4 for 11 from the field. He was 0 for 5 from behind the arc, but 3 assists, 2 rebounds for Aline. And I said 8 points off the bench. Joey Calcaterra, who coach calls him, they said Coach Hurley calls him Hollywood, or Joey California. He played 18 minutes. He had 5 points, off the bench, 1 rebound, 1 assist, and a steal. But, I mean, you look at these guys, and I didn't even get to Tristan Newton, the 6'5" senior who played the most minutes of any – second most, sorry. Caravan played 34, but Tristan Newton, 33 minutes. He had 7 points. He was 2 for 8 from the field, 1 for 3 from behind the arc, but 2 for 2 from the line. So the 7 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds. He chimed in with a steal as well. But their size, the way they can move the ball, the way both these teams play defense. See, here to me is everybody's like, oh, you saw the women's game and you're talking about, defense 102 to 85 as LSU put those numbers up. They had 59 at half. But still, like, the way both these teams play defense and the way we know a lot of times, unless it's completely egregious, and there'll be some that, fouls that won't get called. I'm just going to say it now, get it out of the way with. But overall, both the way these teams play defense, their length, the way they can do it, that is going to be huge. And like I said, when we look at Sonogo and Caravan, I mean, just like I said, that length and height down low. I mean, because Alex Caravan 6'8", and then Sonogo 6'9", just about 250. So was that 6'9", 245. So again, a little bit of a oak to move down there, but defensively can get position, can be there. So for Dan Hurley and UConn, it's a team again that does play defense. You look at, Miami shot 32% from the field, and they were 20 for 60 overall. They were 35% from the 3-point line, but 7 for 20. They were 12 for 12 from the free throw line. I will give Coach Larenega's crew that they were 12 for 12 free throws. I mean, that was, UConn's, I guess, one blemish. Their coaches always look for something, and they were 9 for 26 from 3. So, they were 34%. And like I said, Miami's at 35%, 7 for 20. So, but they were 53. They shot 53% from the free throw line. So that's something you look, if you're going to nitpick, because UConn's played phenomenal. And yes, as much as some of us might like to nitpick at certain teams at times, don't know. But in general, that's one thing, concerning when you're, shooting 53% from the free throw line. And I mean, there was 23 total fouls called in that game. So, again, unless it's crazy egregious, I guess we're looking at the same thing there. For San Diego State, like I said, as they beat Florida Atlantic 72-71. If you watch that game again, down to the buzzer, I was pins and needles. I couldn't believe Coach Dutcher didn't call a timeout. I mean, the one timeout before, but he's saying we're not. He asks his players. He goes, March is about players, and they've done the coaching. They've done the work. Your team. And for Coach Dutcher to have that and see that, and I love not taking the timeout. Yes, people say, oh, teams might feel rushed. Well, if you practice that, and believe me, throughout the season, I know you're really going to blow your minds on this one. You're going to fall out of your chairs. They practice situations like that. All programs do throughout the season. So, hey, if we're not going to call timeout, yes, I know practice situations, we can all say, but different than game time. But if you constantly do it and it becomes habit, Like, you're not going to call timeout. Now, yes, there may have been different players on the floor, but it's that's just how it is. And they didn't call the timeout. I love the fact that he didn't. And you get a last second shot like that. I mean, wow. Wow. I mean, Lamont Butler, he said, get the ball in Lamont's hands. And Lamont only had 9 points for the game. There's only one starter in double figures for San Diego State. And that was Matt Bradley, the 6'4" senior from San Bernardino, California. Bradley had 21 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists. He was the only starter in double digits. And off the bench, Jaden Leedy, the 6'9" senior from Houston. He had 12 points and 6 rebounds. But he was their second leading scorer off the bench. I mean, you look at, in 21 minutes, Kashad Johnson, the 6'7" senior, he had 3 points. Nathan Mensah, a 6'10" senior for San Diego State, he had 7 points. And Darian Trammell, 5'10" senior guard, he had 5 points. And I mean, this again, Lamont Butler, 6'2" junior, he had 9 points. That was their start. I mean, their starting lineup. $45 points is what their starting lineup scored. And 27 points is what the bench scored. And you look at the first half, I mean, FAU got out fast. I mean, 40 points in the first half. And they're up 40-33. So they're up by 7. They get outscored, though, by 8 in the second half, 39-31. And I said Lamont Butler hitting that last second, 13, 14 footer. Let's see. Yeah. Well, he stepped back. So, or no, yeah. I mean, that's about, a good 16 footer, 15, 16 footer Lamont Butler hit. And I mean, the defense was there. Again, he elevated and very much elevated. You talk about a jump shot, and he released that with the 0.4 of a second. And you see the clock go into zeros as the ball's in the air for Lamont Butler. And just, again, what a hell of a shot. 9 points. And he had the last 2 that were the biggest. But, yeah, I mean, you look at that, and it's, again, 45 points from the starters. Rebound-wise, I mean, it was even 35-34. San Diego State had the rebound edge. And then turnover-wise, Florida Atlantic, it was 10-8. So, look, I mean, to me, this is going to be such an awesome game. I mean, the defense alone. And yes, no Pac-12 schools, but, we got to go off. This is obviously the national title game. And, I thought one of those two Pac-12 schools in Arizona. Well, yes, my heart was obviously with ASU, but I thought Arizona or UCLA would be in the Final Four, and both of them had a hell of a shot to get to the championship game. So it'll be a hell of a game. My prediction, man, I kind of agree with Charlie Turner Thornton. I'm torn because San Diego State there, but obviously well, the magic of Bobby Hurley in the tournament, and obviously what he did in the past and his great memories there. But his brother Dan, who's again a very good college player as well. Man, it's just like I'm torn because UConn's won before, and I wouldn't it's not like rooting against UConn, but man, you know what? I'm gonna do a typical. This is for my boy Ray Land. A typical Michael Caratino prediction. Whoever it will be down. It will come down to the last possession. Whoever has the ball last wins the game. There you go. No, I think UConn wins it. I do. All kidding aside, I think UConn wins it, but I do think it again. It's that last possession is whether they hit a shot late and get the victory, or say San Jose has a ball and misses a shot to win it. But I think UConn wins it. I mean, you look at you got to play 6 games in the tournament. You got to win 6 games to win a national championship. But in these 5 games so far, I mean, San Diego State again, they've looked good. Florida Atlantic looked good. Miami, even Texas. But yeah, UConn has, and it's not just the margin of victory, yes, but they've their margin of victory, how they've played as a unit defensively. I mean, again, these two teams kind of mirror images. So, but I think UConn's got just a teeny bit of the advantage. But I think it's going to be one hell of a national championship game, and I'm looking crazy forward to it. So, going to get out of here again. A quick shout out. Obviously, it's a phenomenal weekend in softball and baseball. ASU got their ASU baseball beat Cal. They won the series against Cal. And wow, well, on the baseball side, on the softball side, it was a battle of titans this weekend. UCLA, number 3 in the country, Stanford, number 6. UCLA swept Stanford in softball. That is absolutely huge. And yeah, UCLA swept Stanford, and they beat them 3-0. Arizona State, they actually dropped the first game of the series against Washington, but they won Saturday. They won yesterday. So that's their first series win for Coach, for ASU, but for Coach Bartlett in the Pac-12. They've managed to not get swept, but take, Sundays have been good to them. But this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, a very good Washington team, the 8th-ranked Huskies, coming in Pac-12, absolutely loaded in softball, as always. I mean, I already said UCLA, Stanford, Oregon, Arizona. When we looked at, at the rankings, Oklahoma, they were at 30-1. Coming into the weekend, you looked at, Oklahoma was at 1, Oklahoma State at 2, Tennessee at 3, UCLA at 4. But I think again, Softball America might have the higher now because they're at 3. But UCLA was at 4 in the Pac-12. Washington, apologies, Cardinal Stanford fan. Stanford was at 6. Washington was at 9. Oregon was at 18. Utah was at 19. And then Arizona was at 24 coming in to this. So you look at the Softball America rankings again, pretty much Oklahoma. Oh, they actually, updated on March 28th. So yeah, Oklahoma they had UCLA. They had UCLA at 5, Stanford at 6. So, but yeah, just looking at it still, just huge matchups there, and UCLA able to sweep them. But when we look at the standings, UCLA 9-3 in conference play, 32-4 overall. Utah 6-3. in conference play. And then 22-7 overall. Washington 7-5 now. They're 26-8. Stanford 5-4. They're 28-6. Cal 6-5-1 in conference. They're 24-9-1 overall. ASU, look at that, climbing up a little bit, 4-5, again below 500 in conference play, but 20-11 overall. And they're again, you gotta start playing well. They got some work cut out for them, but they have Utah coming up on their schedule, so we'll see. Oregon, they're at 5-7 in conference play, but 22-11 overall. Again, they lost was that Oregon State 4-0. Arizona 3-6 overall. And then 3-6 in conference play, 24-12 overall. And then Oregon State 2-9-1 overall, 11 wins, 20 losses, 1 tie for Oregon State. But today actually Oregon State is playing Montana. Or not Oregon State. Oregon State beat Oregon, but Oregon today is playing Montana at home. Tuesday, UCLA is playing UCSD. And then starting Thursday, again, with it being Easter weekend, and Pac-12 has done this, or Pac has done throughout the years. They'll go Thursday, Friday, Saturday on games. So ASU is traveling to Utah, Salt Lake City, to take on the Utes. Cal will be taking on Washington, UCLA and Oregon State, Arizona and Stanford. I mean, Stanford's going to be stung because they got swept. Arizona, like I said, they need to do a little work in conference play. That's going to be a phenomenal matchup. And then Oregon has a weekend series with Linwood as well. So, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But, great matchups there, softball-wise. So, anyway, going to get out of here. Again, enjoy the national title game tonight. You can hit me up on Twitter at Diablos00 if you have, your thoughts on the national title game. Like I said, I think UConn gets it, but to me, it's going to be a very close game. I do in a way stick by my whoever has the ball last theory will win the game. But it's going to be, to me, this is an awesome game. Awesome game between UConn and San Diego State. So enjoy the game tonight. Enjoy the rest of the week. I will see you on Friday. And again, we'll recap the game and talk a little more spring ball. Have some sound from throughout spring ball here at ASU. Also talk, I keep saying I'm going to get to it, but Friday, I'm going to get to championships in the Pac-12 because Cal on the men's side won national title in swimming, and ASU actually finished second. So 2 Pac-12 schools showing out. Leon Marchand, the Arizona State sophomore, this young man is phenomenal. The team, the way they worked, but the records he set, what he's won as a sophomore, and Coach Bowman's done a hell of a job. So, but hats off to Cal, national champs there. I will get to that. Gymnastics as well. Recap on that. But I will see you Friday. Have a great week. Make it good. And I'll see you back here Friday. But as always, forks up.